name is Raleigh Martin. My Chinese name is Ma Lei. Ma is horse and Lei is thunder. I started learning Chinese in seventh grade, which is now almost 30 years ago, so you can kind of guess how old I am. I had great opportunities to learn Chinese for 6 years at the Landon School in Bethesda, Maryland. And then I continued my Chinese studies at Princeton University, where my major was in engineering, but I did a minor in East Asian Studies. And throughout that experience, through high school and college, I had multiple opportunities to study in China. Most significantly, I did several summers in Beijing, starting in high school, and then also a year abroad at Nanjing University. Learned Chinese for a long time, but my majors in college and then in subsequent study were primarily science and engineering focused. And so I thought a lot about the parallels and differences between learning a language versus learning these technical subjects. In everyday experience, there's honestly not a lot of connection between learning Chinese and learning a scientific subject, but I think there are sometimes surprising connections that come up. For example, one thing that I think I've come to appreciate in studying science and engineering is the importance of international collaboration. In scientific study, you learn that knowledge has no boundaries, that a scientific paper published at an American university is just as valuable as a scientific paper published by a French university or Chinese university. Wherever the knowledge comes from, it's valuable. In 2014, I traveled to Lanzhou, which is a city in the far northwest of China, kind of in the middle of the desert along the Yellow River. And the research I was doing at the time was focused on desert processes and desert sand dunes, sandstorms, dust storms. And one of the things I came to appreciate is while this is an issue in the United States that we deal with, it's also a huge issue in China. One thing I've come to appreciate learning Chinese and also studying science is these potential international connections, that a lot of the subject matter that we care about in science in the United States are also subjects that people care a lot about in China, and we can learn from each other in the scientific collaboration. I think learning a foreign language can be humbling, especially learning Chinese, which is probably not the easiest language for an English speaker to learn. But what you learn is that learning a foreign language is hard. It takes a lot of time and practice and patience. And I realized the privilege I have growing up as a native English speaker, speaking the language which currently is probably the most widely used in international commerce and exchange. As an English speaker, you have an advantage in the world because you can travel almost anywhere in the world and expect that someone will speak your language. Well, coming from another country like China, traveling around the world, one doesn't necessarily have that same benefit. As someone coming from China to the United States, there's a burden on someone to learn English and to become conversant in that language. So I think studying Chinese and trying to exist in China during study abroad gave me an appreciation for the reverse, for Chinese people who come to the United States and they start out here and English is very difficult and they have to be patient and learn over time. It's just taught me, a certain level of patience and respect and empathy for folks who come from other countries for whom English is a second language here and the challenges that they face, and trying to just be a little bit more empathic with that experience. But I do think learning a foreign language is important for establishing a global connection. I think especially, as I mentioned earlier, we're privileged in the United States having learned English as our native language. It's a language that's used throughout the world. And so I think it's easy as an American to default into an English-centric, American-centric view of the world. And I think only by learning a foreign language, and especially a language as foreign as Chinese, is one able to kind of get away from that kind of default mindset of English language and American culture and really inhabit another culture as different, but also as deep and interesting as Chinese culture. And so I do think having learned Chinese really afforded me the opportunity, especially when I spent all that time studying abroad, to really see the world from a different perspective, because I think Chinese people do have a very different perspective on the world than Americans. And so to be appreciative of, wait a minute, the way that Americans look at the world is not the only way to look at the world. I think there are other valid perspectives as well.